How Mithridates evaded my armies in Egypt and ended up in Parthia is beyond my knowledge. I can only imagine it is my lazy patrols I have to blame. Still, this is useless speculation now. He is coming with all of his Parthian allies. The massive eastern nation controls the Sacros mountains between our borders, making it extremely hard to invade. If we are to win this war, we need to lure them out into the open field. On the other hand, their heaps of armored cavalry will crush our forces if that is the case. Therefore, I sent a small group of spies into their territory to gather some intel. If we knew where their armies are, a proper defensive frontier could be established to keep them at bay. To our luck, their forces were all far away to actually engage us, meaning even the siege regiment from Alexandria could arrive in time. Furthermore, we began recruiting another team in Seleucia, adding our total strength up to 4 armies. But compared to the countless Persian battalions on the way, this wasn't enough. Stationed at Athens, I had a reserve army that formerly was part of a 2-army group keeping an eye on Rome. But they have been quiet ever since losing their capital, hence I recalled them to the east. Even though this was greatly needed, it would take time before they could arrive. Till then, we were on our own. To make matters worse, a plague started to spread in Pergamon. In Pergamon! Our pride citizens are falling like flies to what shouldn't even have been a threat for us in the first place. There's only one fitting name for this plague: Abalos 19. Returning to the front lines, important news arrived about 3 Persian armies collectively traveling through Susa and towards Mesopotamia. On their own we should be able to handle them, but Parsa, the Persian state defending the Sacros mountains, added 2 more armies to their numbers by sending their own south. This left Ecbatana, the biggest fortification defending the pass, into Persia defenseless. Knowing Attalus were on his way from Gansak to assist in this siege, I started building proper equipment to scale the walls. This is where it gets a bit complicated. 2 Parsa forces were pushing towards Seleucia, with another Parthian army not far behind. Then they also had 2 more forces in the mountains, one pushing the same way as the others and one moving north to save Ecbatana. Up there, yet another army had arrived. They could potentially strike me before Attalus could save me. Something I wasn't willing to risk. I decided to fall back and stay hidden for a while, hoping they left. Even further inland, yet another force was on its way, going for Gansak. And still, with all of these armies, we know one of them was missing from the south, staying in the shadows outside of our range. And just in case you've forgotten, we only had 2 armies at Seleucia and 2 outside of Ecbatana. Well, we had our allies in the area too, but the Nabateans are traitors, not used to warfare. They will just let us do the work for them and reap the reward afterwards. What was my solution to this, you might ask? Use one army to protect the walls alongside the Nabateans and send one into the mountains to lay ambushes and continue the siege of Ecbatana. By now, the plague Abalos 19 had spread to Ephesus and even north into Cimmerian lands. I had men researching a way to solve the problem, but they said it would take at least half a year before a sustainable solution could be found. A catastrophe indeed. And now the army in the north was in striking distance of our towns. I had to do something. Once again we broke the siege of Ecbatana so I could go north and intercept the army. Attalus would protect the main path into Mesopotamia, allowing the other 2 in the south to go even further down to confront the Persian forces. Of course, they weren't able to attack, but just had to wait for the right opportunity. To my surprise, my interception actually worked in the north, meaning it was time to strike. Hopefully, I can survive the onslaught of Persian Cataphract cavalry. As the battle was about to take place on an open field, I kept my men in a tight formation. But as I was the one to instigate the battle, I had to make the first move, and therefore couldn't just sit here. Or well, not exactly, as I would use my lightly armored Javcav I've had with me since the start of my journey to lure the enemy in. As we only captured one of the enemy units first time, I had to throw out the bait once again, this time with a bit more success. The Cataphracts would rush forward in full force, hoping my pikemen would flee by their roaring speed alone. Ha! If only they knew what was about to happen. During the last part of the battle, the Parthian general ran into my lines himself, like the foolish soldiers before him. This was my chance to run out and hunt him down.
Quickly now! Engage!
A victory this decisive surely must bring horror and fear to Mithridates. I am no longer the weak, inexperienced general of the Pergamene royal guard. I am Eumenes, the king of Pergamon and rightful ruler of the Macedonian Empire, and anyone who stands in my way shall be crushed. With all the reports I received from the south, I ordered them to split up into 3 separate groups, while keeping 2 of them hidden. This turned out to make the Parthians relocate some of their armies, but all the armies in Seleucia finally came to bite us in the butt. The supplies had run out, meaning my forces couldn't stay there any longer. Hence they began their counterattack, first taking out the Parthian Shah Acies along with another army. The Pergamon casualties were still very high compared to the many enemies they still had to take out, but they had to keep pushing. Luckily, the Parthians favored a fight with me and a reinforcing army from Athens that finally had arrived, leaving Susa open for an assault. Now almost all of the Persian armies were stuck in the pass between Susa and Ecbatana, making it possible for us to cut off any escape route. All I had to do was take Ecbatana, which I did with ease. Now the next that happened was a pure slaughterhouse. After what just happened, the Parthians were reduced to just 2 armies. One of them stole Susa right in front of us, that man being Mithridates. I ordered all of our forces to follow me south to deal with my rival. I stabbed the general of his army and forced the town to surrender. Standing before Mithridates, he pleaded for mercy, saying stuff about how he spared my life way back when he defeated me. I thought it was just a cheap shot to mock me one last time, but my polemarch pleaded me to wait. I need to think about what to do with Mithridates.